Welcome to the Tournament Indicator Win Odds and Pot Odds video tutorial. This video will demonstrate the display tools of Tournament Indicator that help make profitable decisions based on your chances of winning a hand with your hole cards, making smart pot odds decisions, and referring to the EV and Sklansky hand group ranking for quality score reference. Before we start with a real table example, I would like to remind you here that I prefer to use the ratio indicator as opposed to percentages in the odds window. If you prefer, however, Tournament Indicator allows you to change from ratio or odds to percentage in the settings panel. It's found under the Tools menu. You can do this on the fly without rebooting. The odds window not only shows win odds and pot odds for your hole cards, but also EV and the Sklansky hand group ranking. EV, or expected value, is a pre-flop measurement of the long-term earnings you can expect to make from any particular hand. This is based on ring money action and is a mathematical tabulation of how many big bets it will win or lose. Suffice to say that in tournaments, this indicator can be a glaring reminder of how your hand has performed historically, especially when there is a raise in front of you. The Sklansky hand group ranking is similar to EV, but this ranking system is based on hands of similar EV being grouped together for easy comparison and recognition of hand strength. For example, 7-7 and Queen 9 suited are both in the same group as their EV is very similar. There are 9 groups, and Group 1 is the strongest group that includes the 5 best hands in Hold'em. This system was devised by David Sklansky in his book called Hold'em Poker for Advanced Players. It is always advisable to look at EV and the Sklansky hand group ranking before answering a raise. Because they are only pre-flop indicators, Tournament Indicator switches these views to number of players and your position while in the hand, as well as total card outs or unseen cards that may improve your hand. Your outs are thus expressed in your win odds and thus your pot odds as well. Now let's take a look at this hand I was involved in as I explain the Tournament Indicator odds features. As you know, Tournament Indicator reads your hole cards automatically, and in this case I am dealt Queen Jack offsuit. It is late in a 180 person multi-table sit and go tournament, and the blinds are now 600 and 1200. I am barely in the orange M zone, and I'm looking for an opportunity to double up and feel I may just ride with this hand if confronted with a raise. For the moment though, I decide to limp in, hoping that the big blind will raise me as he has been very aggressive. My expected value is 0.03, and this hand falls in Group 5 in the Sklansky hand group ranking. The big blind checks, and I flop middle pair, good kicker, and a gut shot. I am now in position with a decent hand and an aggressive player as he predictably bets out. Now let's look at my win odds. My win odds are clearly in my favor here at 0.61 to 1. But even better than that, after the big blind bet, he has given me excellent pot odds to carry on with this hand. They are now 4 to 1. The favorable odds on both scales are critical to your decision making, and these instantly adjust at every street. A brick came on the turn, and I called another min bet from the aggressor. The river brings another brick, and I am faced with a 3 times the blind bet, giving me 3.3 to 1 pot odds. Either he is trying to sell a value bet here or executing a post-oak bluff. My hand did not improve, but my win odds are still very favorable. Against another player, I may fold this, but Tournament Indicator has been tracking this individual as very aggressive. So I call, based on very favorable pot odds, win odds, and tournament indicator profiling. He shows down a weak pair. If you want to know more about profiling techniques, I discuss them in detail on my free video series at mzonereport.com. We will do another example now, where based on odds information, I choose to fold. In this situation, a rather solid player raised from the small blind, which should always be a concern, but with my pocket tens, I chose to take a flop. The flop was marginal for me, in that a queen fell, but I suspected I might be ahead, so I chose to call another bet and see the turn. This brought the jack of clubs, another overcard. On the strength of that card, the small blind puts in a solid bet here, and as you can see, I have some consideration to fold or possibly re-raise all in. However, based on my win odds now at 6.7 to 1, this is relatively high, this is a fold to me. For calling, I am looking for much more favorable scales here on both sides, where my pot odds and win odds are both very good. Look to avoid hands that have a high win odds ratio and low pot odds ratio. Attractive hands need a low win odds ratio and at least moderately high pot odds ratio. These kind of strategies directly relate to the game theory type decisions made by tournament pros when relying on their reads and the mathematics of the situation. All indicators here give me the incentive to fold at this stage of the tournament. So that is my decision. There were about 6 tables left at this stage, and I was able to create more favorable opportunities later on that propelled me to a 4th place finish. I hope that gives you some solid fundamentals when using these powerful odds indicators. I would like to reiterate here that any given tournament situation is complex. Far too complex for any bot-like tool to recommend a fold or raise here, as there are simply too many human factors involved. That is why Tournament Indicator will offer up every valid detail about your table, so that you are able to make key decisions at game critical intersects.